Start before you know how. Let me ask you something. How many times have you waited for the perfect moment to act? That magical instant when everything aligns and you feel completely ready to start something new? Now think with me. How many times did that moment actually come? The truth no one tells you is, it never does. Living is a constant leap of faith, a dive into the unknown, and you need to understand that there is no path without uncertainties. Life is full of the unexpected, of situations beyond our control. And you know what? That's what makes it amazing. If you're waiting for complete security to start something big, a project, a career change, or even a new hobby, I'm sorry to say you could wait your whole life because the perfect moment will never appear. But what if I told you that the secret to success isn't in waiting but in acting? What's stopping you from taking that first step today? Personal growth happens when you step out of your comfort zone, when you take risks, when you have the courage to leap even without having all the answers. Yes, you will make mistakes. Yes, you will stumble. But it's in those stumbles that you discover your strength, your ability to get back up, to learn and to move forward. If you want to change, if you want to grow, stop looking for certainties. Accept that life is a leap of faith. And when you take that leap, you'll realize that it's in the movement that things start to make sense, that the path opens up. Action brings clarity, not the other way around. Are you ready to take that leap? I know hearing that life is a leap of faith can seem challenging, and it's natural that when you think about acting, something inside you hesitates. That inner voice starts talking, full of worries. Am I ready? What if it goes wrong? Maybe I should wait a little longer. But the truth is, this isn't just a fleeting insecurity. It's your brain, the most powerful machine you possess, doing exactly what it was programmed to do. It wants to protect you, but at the same time, it can be the biggest saboteur of your dreams. Now let's dive deeper into this. Our brain is a fascinating tool, capable of creating, innovating, and solving complex problems. But, paradoxically, it is also a master at keeping us stuck, working against our own progress. This happens because at its core, the brain seeks one thing above all else: safety. It's programmed to avoid risks and uncertainties because, for our ancestors, that was a matter of survival. The problem is, in today's world, this instinct can paralyze us, blocking our ambitions and preventing us from taking action. Think about it. Every time you think about starting something new, a project, a career change, or even a hobby, the brain starts doing a risk calculation. It automatically reminds you of everything that could go wrong. What if we fail? What if people laugh at us? What if we lose time or money? It's as if it's saying to you, don't leave the comfort zone, it's safe here. And you know what the result of that is? Procrastination. Excuses that seem completely logical start to emerge. I need more time to prepare. I don't have all the answers yet, or I'll wait for the right time. Does this sound familiar? But the hard reality is that this ideal moment never arrives, and the more you delay, the stronger the excuses become, and the more your brain gets comfortable. What you might not realize is that this paralysis happens subtly. It disguises itself as rationality. You start to believe that you're being prudent when in fact you're sabotaging yourself. And time goes by, and suddenly what started as a small hesitation turns into a giant barrier between you and your dreams. But how do you break this cycle? The first step is simple. Recognize the pattern. Understand that this search for safety is what's holding you back. Your brain puts you in survival mode, but you need to activate creation mode, because that's when things really happen. It's when you decide to act even with fear, even with uncertainties, that true growth begins. It's not easy. The discomfort will be there, but it's that discomfort that shapes who you become. Now here's a second fundamental point. Procrastination isn't just about laziness or a lack of discipline. It's your brain's reaction to fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear that things won't go as planned. But do you want to know the truth? All great achievements were born from that same place of uncertainty. Every person you admire, that successful entrepreneur, the athlete, the artist, they all started without guarantees, without having all the answers. The only difference is they didn't let fear stop their action. And here's something even more powerful. Every time you take action, no matter how small, you're training your brain to see the unknown as something possible, not as a danger. This is the power of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reshape and adapt to new experiences. When you act, even with fear, you're reprogramming your mind. Gradually, what once seemed scary starts to become normal. The discomfort gives way to confidence. And that's when you realize that the only real enemy was the paralysis caused by your own mind. So, the question remains, will you keep letting your mind sabotage you, or will you start acting even with uncertainties? Because in the end, what really holds you back isn't a lack of time or resources. It's this internal mechanism that seeks safety above all. But remember, comfort never took anyone anywhere. The first step toward your dream may be uncertain, but it's the only way out of stagnation. What are you going to do with this? Now that you understand how your mind tries to keep you safe, it's time to take the next step. Fear and procrastination are just mental barriers you can overcome. But what comes after? What happens when you finally decide to act? That's when the real journey begins. Because growth, my friend, doesn't happen when everything is calm and comfortable. It happens when you throw yourself into discomfort and face challenges head-on. You know that feeling of butterflies in your stomach, that anxiety that shows up every time you face something new and unknown? That's the sign that you're in the right place. It's at that exact moment when the discomfort feels unbearable that the true magic of growth happens. Think with me. If you always do the same things in the same way, how do you expect to get different results? Personal, professional, and even emotional development only happens when you step out of what is known and face new challenges. It's like working out a muscle in your body. The effort is uncomfortable, sometimes painful, but it's what makes the muscle grow. If you don't challenge that muscle, it stays the same size. The same thing happens with your mind and your skills. How many times have you avoided doing something because it seemed difficult or uncertain? The reality is that success and growth aren't on the easy path. They live on the other side of discomfort. All the greatest achievements in your life, all the most valuable lessons, came from moments when you had to deal with difficulties, overcome obstacles, and adapt to new situations. Think about the times when you learned the most. Weren't those exactly the moments that knocked you down and forced you to see things differently? The comfort zone is like a safe shelter, but it's also a place where dreams slowly die. There is no challenge there, no risk, and therefore no growth. Sure, it may seem tempting to stay in that place where nothing threatens you, but the price is high. You sacrifice all your potential. If you keep choosing the easy path, you'll end up living a life beneath what you're truly capable of. And you know what's even more incredible? When you finally take that first step out of the comfort zone, the things that once seemed scary start to lose their weight. The first time you face a challenge is tough, but once you overcome it, you realize you're stronger than you thought. And the next challenge, it doesn't seem so impossible anymore. Here's the secret that many don't tell you. Discomfort is temporary, but the growth that comes with it is permanent. Every time you face a difficulty, you don't go back to being the same person. You evolve, you learn, you grow. And over time, you develop unshakable confidence because you know that no matter what comes your way, you have the strength and resilience to overcome it. What sets apart those who only dream from those who actually achieve is the ability to embrace discomfort. They don't run from challenges, they seek them out. They know that it's in the failures, in the stumbles, and in the difficulties that true progress happens. Every mistake turns into a lesson. Every obstacle overcome becomes a personal victory. And when you start seeing discomfort as a necessary part of the process, everything changes. You stop fearing the unknown and start seeing it as an opportunity. Discomfort becomes a sign that you're on the right path, that you're growing, expanding, evolving. So, if you're waiting for security, for certainty, for the comfort zone, know that you're waiting in the wrong place. Growth only happens in the wild terrain of the unknown, in the situations that challenge you to be more than you were yesterday. What are you going to choose today? The comfort of stagnation or the discomfort that leads to your true potential? Now that you know growth happens in discomfort, it's time to face an even deeper truth. It's not just your mind that creates barriers. Society itself, the environment we live in, reinforces ideas that stop us from acting. It conditions us to chase something that simply doesn't exist. The perfect moment, the approval of others, complete certainty. And that's what we're going to talk about now. From a young age, we're taught to believe we should only act when everything is perfect. How many times have you heard phrases like, wait for the right time, or you need to be 100% ready before you start? Society pushes this idea on us, that there's an ideal point when everything falls into place, when all the puzzle pieces are aligned, and only then can we move forward. But let me tell you something, that's an illusion. The perfect moment we're all waiting for simply doesn't exist. There will never be a situation where all the factors are 100% in your favor. Life doesn't work that way. Time keeps passing, circumstances change, and the truth is, if you keep waiting, you might end up missing the best opportunities. Society conditions us to believe we need to be perfect before taking any action. It imposes impossible standards on us, whether in appearance, professional success, relationships, or any other aspect of life. We're surrounded by images of perfection that make us feel like we're not ready yet, that something's missing. But what no one tells you is that these expectations are fabricated. They don't reflect reality. And the problem with living in anticipation of this perfect moment is that it paralyzes us. We get stuck in a cycle of self-judgment, always thinking we're not good enough, that we don't have enough, that it's not the right time yet. And in the meantime, time passes and life keeps being pushed off to later. You know what else? A lot of times the approval we're seeking isn't even our own. Society teaches us that we need external validation from friends, family, social media before taking any big step. We wait for others to tell us we're ready, that we're on the right path. But here's the big issue. No one but you can decide when it's time to act. The weight of your dreams, your ambitions, is yours. No one else can feel what you feel, and because of that, no one has the right to tell you if you're ready or not. And if you keep waiting for others' approval, you might end up living a life that isn't even yours. How many times have you made decisions based on what you thought others wanted, and not what you truly desired? The price of external validation is too high. You sacrifice your authenticity, your purpose, your happiness. The truth is, complete security is also a myth. There's no guarantee that everything will go right, that you'll never fail. And you know what? That's part of the game. Life is about learning from stumbles, adjusting the path as you go. The only way to reach success is to dive into the process, with all your imperfections, with all the uncertainties. If you're waiting for the ideal moment, you'll end up waiting forever. Instead, start now with what you have, because the right moment is the one you decide to make right. And perfection, let it go. Success doesn't come to those who wait for perfection, but to those who take risks, who fail, who learn, and who persist. It's time to free yourself from the idea that only the perfect deserve to win. The world doesn't belong to the perfect. It belongs to those who have the courage to try, even when they don't have all the answers. Stop seeking validation outside. Trust yourself and take the first step. Because the only real mistake is never having started. What are you going to do now? Are you going to keep waiting for this perfect moment, or are you going to start creating your own path, even if it's imperfect? Now that you understand the perfect moment will never come, and that complete security is an illusion, the next step is even simpler, but no less important. It's not about waiting until you're 100% ready. It's about starting, even without knowing exactly how. Because it's in the act of starting that clarity emerges, doors open, and you discover new opportunities. And this is where true transformation begins. Most people believe they can only start something when they know exactly what they're doing, as if all the answers need to be on the table before taking the first step. But that's one of the biggest lies we tell ourselves. The truth? You're never going to have all the answers from the start, and that's totally normal. Starting without knowing how is an act of courage. It means you're willing to step into unknown territory without the guarantee that you'll get it right on the first try. And you know what? That's liberating, because by allowing yourself to start despite uncertainties, you open yourself up to learning. You accept that making mistakes is part of the process, and that every mistake brings a new lesson. Think of any great achievement in history. No inventor, entrepreneur, or artist knew exactly what they were doing from the beginning. Steve Jobs didn't have a manual on how to build Apple. Nelson Mandela didn't have all the answers on how to free a nation. They just started. And it was through action that clarity came, that answers appeared. The key insight is that action creates movement. And this movement, even when it sometimes feels disordered or without direction, starts to create the path in front of you. It's like walking through a dark forest with a flashlight. You can only see a few feet ahead, but each step you take lights up the path a little more. And over time, what once seemed impossible becomes achievable because clarity comes with moving forward. If you're waiting for everything to be perfectly aligned before acting, you're missing one of the greatest opportunities for growth. Not knowing exactly how to do something doesn't stop you from starting. It gives you the chance to learn while doing. Every attempt, every mistake, every adjustment gets you closer to your goal. And you know what else? This process is what really shapes you. The biggest lessons in your life won't come from the things you planned out in detail. They'll come from the times you threw yourself into the unknown and learned along the way, because it's in that uncharted territory that you find new possibilities. When you start something without having all the answers, the universe starts working in your favor. You begin to see opportunities where there used to be uncertainty. The right people start showing up. Ideas start flowing. And you know what else? When you just start, even without knowing how, you develop something no amount of preparation can give you: confidence in yourself. You realize that you're capable of handling whatever comes, of finding solutions, of adapting. Every little success, every challenge overcome, strengthens your belief that yes, you can. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need the courage to discover them along the way. So, if you're waiting to know how everything is going to unfold before you act, understand that it's only going to happen if you allow yourself to start. Clarity comes with movement. Opportunities appear when you're in action, and each step taken reveals new chances you would never have imagined if you had stayed still waiting. The question is, are you willing to take that step in the dark? Are you ready to learn as you go? Because, in the end, the secret isn't in having all the answers before starting. It's in starting and allowing the process to teach you everything you need to know. What are you going to do now? Are you going to keep waiting for certainty? Or are you going to throw yourself into the unknown and discover what you're truly capable of achieving? You already understand that the secret lies in starting, even without having all the answers. Now let's face one of the biggest fears people have when taking that first step: the fear of failure. But here's the truth that few people understand. Failure is not the end of the road. In fact, it's an essential tool for success. And that's exactly what we're going to explore now. Let's be honest. Nobody likes to fail. For a long time, failure has been painted as something to be avoided at all costs, as if making mistakes was synonymous with incompetence or lack of ability. But that view is completely distorted. In reality, failure is one of the best teachers you could have. It teaches you lessons that no victory, no matter how satisfying, could ever offer. The first thing you need to understand is that failure is not the enemy. The real enemy is the fear of failing. That fear paralyzes you, trapping you in a bubble of safety where there's no growth. It's what stops you from taking risks, from trying, from learning. And the most dangerous part is that the more you fear failure, the less you take risks. And the less you take risks, the further you get from your potential. Look around. The people you admire, the ones who've achieved incredible things, they've all failed at some point. Not just once or twice, but many times. They took risks and made mistakes. But what sets them apart from the majority is that they didn't let failure define who they were. On the contrary, they used each failure as an opportunity to improve, to adapt, to figure out what wasn't working. Failure is, in fact, an essential part of the evolution process. When you fail, you get valuable feedback on what needs to be adjusted. Maybe it was the wrong approach, a strategy that didn't work, or a skill that needs to be developed. But only through failure can you identify these areas and make the necessary changes to grow. And you know what's even more interesting? The fear of failure is often bigger than failure itself. When you actually allow yourself to fail and face the mistake head-on, you realize it's not the monster you imagined. Most of the time, the emotional impact of a mistake is much smaller than the fear you had of it. And once you face that fear, it starts to lose its power over you. Moreover, failure brings something that few experiences offer: resilience. Each time you fall and get back up, you become stronger. Life is full of ups and downs, and the ability to handle the lows is what truly sets apart those who achieve success from those who give up along the way. Failure gives you the chance to test your determination, to prove to yourself that you can keep going no matter what happens. Now, it's important to note that this isn't about seeking failure intentionally. The point here is to understand that it's part of the process. When you fail, instead of blaming yourself or giving up, what you need to do is learn. Ask yourself, what is this experience trying to teach me? Where can I improve from this? Every failure is a lesson in disguise, an opportunity to refine your strategy, to strengthen your mindset. Remember, people who avoid failure at all costs end up avoiding success too. Because to achieve great things, you have to be willing to take risks, and risk includes the possibility of failure, but that risk is worth it. Every mistake brings you closer to the version of yourself you're destined to become. So what's worse, failing a few times along the way, learning from those mistakes and growing, or spending your entire life not trying for fear of failing? The answer is simple, but it's up to you to choose. Will you keep letting the fear of failure paralyze you, or will you face mistakes as part of the path to success? You have everything you need to learn from your mistakes. Failure is not an end. It's your springboard to something greater. Now that you understand failure is a powerful learning tool, it's time to talk about something even more fascinating: your brain. Every time you face a mistake, a challenge, or a difficulty, your brain not only absorbs the lesson, but also adapts. Yes, your brain is like a muscle, capable of strengthening and growing with every new experience. And this ability to change is what we call neuroplasticity. Let's discover how it works and how it can completely transform your life. The human brain is perhaps the most powerful tool we have, and the good news is that it's constantly changing and evolving. Contrary to what many believe, our mind is not fixed, immutable, or limited to what we were born knowing. On the contrary, the brain has an incredible ability to adapt, to mold itself to new realities, to create new neural connections based on the experiences we go through. And this ability is what allows our personal growth and evolution. This adaptive ability is called neuroplasticity. Every time you experience something new, whether it's a learning, a mistake, or a challenge, your brain literally reorganizes itself. New synapses are formed, new neural networks emerge, and what once seemed difficult or impossible begins to make sense. This means that with every experience, you're training your brain to adjust, to deal with the unknown, and to strengthen itself in the face of new situations. Imagine you're learning to play a musical instrument for the first time. At first, everything seems confusing. Your hands don't follow the rhythm, and the sound that comes out of the instrument is nowhere near what you expected. But over time, as you practice, your brain begins to adapt to those new demands. It starts associating the movements of your hands with the notes you want to play, and slowly the skill begins to develop. It's as if your brain is creating a new map, learning how to navigate that new territory. And the same thing happens in all aspects of life. When you allow yourself to learn something new or face a challenge, you're telling your brain, adapt, and it responds. But for that to happen, you need to take the first step, the one we discussed earlier. You need to throw yourself into the unknown, even without all the answers, because it's precisely in that space of uncertainty that neuroplasticity kicks in. And here's the most important point. Every time you challenge yourself, every time you step out of your comfort zone, your brain not only adapts, but it also strengthens. It creates new skills, new ways of thinking and solving problems. In other words, contrary to what many people believe, you're not stuck with your current limitations. You are not the same person you were yesterday, nor will you be the same person tomorrow. With each new experience, you are literally transforming yourself, both physically and mentally. This process of adaptation is what allows you to become someone better, stronger, more resilient. It's the foundation of personal growth. The more you challenge your brain, the more it expands. The discomfort you feel when trying something new is just a sign that your brain is in the middle of this change process. It's creating the necessary connections so that next time, what seemed impossible becomes possible. And the beauty of neuroplasticity is that it never stops. It doesn't matter your age, your circumstances, or how much you think you've already learned. Your brain keeps shaping itself according to your experiences throughout life. This means that you have the ability to reinvent yourself at any moment, to learn something new, to change a habit that no longer serves you. There's no limit to what you can achieve if you're willing to challenge your brain. Now, imagine the potential of this in your life. Every time you decide to face a challenge, every time you choose to learn from a mistake or persist in the face of difficulty, you are training your brain to be more agile, more adaptable, more capable of handling the unpredictable. And that's the secret to true personal evolution. It's not about having all the answers or never making mistakes. It's about accepting the challenge to change, allowing yourself to grow, and trusting in your brain's ability to adapt. So what are you going to do with this information? Will you keep avoiding challenges and seeking safety, or will you embrace the fact that your brain is ready to grow as long as you challenge it? The power to change is in your hands, or rather in your mind, because in the end, you are not defined by what you know or what you've already achieved. You are defined by your ability to learn, to adapt, and to keep evolving day after day. Now that you understand the incredible power your brain has to adapt and grow, it's time to bring that transformation into the center of your life. Because in the end, all this potential for change only makes sense if you take the reins of your own journey. And here's the most important truth of all. You are the protagonist of your life. You are not a piece in someone else's game, nor a passive spectator. The question is, are you ready to take on that role? Think of all the stories you've heard, whether from books, movies, or people you admire. Each of them has a protagonist, a main character who makes decisions, faces challenges, and, in the end, builds their own path. Now, reflect on your own life. Who's writing your story? Are you in control, making the decisions that shape your future, or are you letting others dictate the direction you'll follow? The truth is simple but powerful. You are the protagonist of your life. No one else is. And just like any protagonist in a good story, you have the power to choose your next step, to face your fears, and to act according to your own dreams and passions. But to do that, you first need to believe in your potential. You need to understand that the responsibility for your happiness, success, and achievements is entirely in your hands. Many times we fall into the trap of living life based on others' expectations. Society, family, friends, they all have opinions about what we should do, who we should be, and how we should act. And without realizing it, we start following a path that's not ours, making choices that please others, but don't fill our own hearts. But here's the thing, no one except you can feel the weight of your dreams. No one but you knows what makes you happy, what makes you feel alive. And that's why only you can take control of your story. Being the protagonist of your life means developing self-confidence. It means stopping waiting for permission from others and starting to believe that you are capable of making things happen. Often, what's missing isn't talent or opportunity, but the courage to believe that you deserve more. The courage to believe that you can, indeed, live by your own rules, chase your own goals, and create a life that makes sense for you, not for others. But here's the challenge. Taking control of your own life requires action. It's not enough to want something different. It's not enough to dream. You need to act, to take the first steps, even if they're small, toward what you truly want. And that can be scary because it means taking responsibility for your own outcomes. But guess what? That's exactly what makes the process freeing. When you realize you're in control, that you can change the direction of your story at any moment, you realize the power to transform your life is within you, and it always has been. And you know what else? Being the protagonist of your life also means allowing yourself to fail, to learn, and to start over. No story is made of victories alone. Defeats and setbacks are part of the journey. But the difference is that, as the protagonist, you decide how to handle these adversities. You can choose to get up, learn from the mistakes, and keep going. Or you can let yourself be beaten down and blame the world for everything that went wrong. The choice is yours. And that's the beauty of being the protagonist. You have choices. You can decide what to do with your time, your energy, your talents. You can choose to change careers, start a new project, learn a new skill, surround yourself with people who uplift you. Your life isn't a pre-written script. It's a field of possibilities that you can explore and transform. Remember, every great achievement starts with a small decision. What are you willing to do today to start writing the story you truly want to live? Are you going to keep waiting for others to dictate what's best for you? Or will you finally take the reins of your life and make decisions based on your own desires and ambitions? Because at the end of the day, you're not here to be a piece in someone else's game. You're here to be the protagonist of your own story, to write chapters that reflect who you are, what you believe, and what you want to achieve. It's time to stop being a supporting character in someone else's life and start living as the main character of your own journey. So, what are you going to do now? Are you ready to start writing the next chapter of your story? Because the script of your life is in your hands, and you're the one who decides how it will end. Now that you know you are the protagonist of your life and that the reins are in your hands, let's talk about something that often tries to take that power away from you, the fear of judgment and social pressure. How many times have you held back from doing something you wanted because you were afraid of what others might think? How many decisions in your life were made not by you, but by the fear of not being accepted? It's time to change that. The fear of judgment is one of the most silent yet powerful forces that exist. It holds us back, makes us hesitate, and often prevents us from living the life we truly want. From childhood, we're conditioned to seek approval from others, parents, teachers, friends, and even strangers on social media. And with that, we start making decisions that aren't ours. Little by little, we mold ourselves to others' expectations, trying to fit in, to be accepted. But the truth is, this search for acceptance comes at a high price. Losing ourselves. How many times have you wanted to start something new, be it a project, a personal change, or even a change in your appearance, but gave up because you were afraid of what others would think? This fear of judgment is present in all areas of our lives. We worry about how we'll be seen, if we'll be criticized, if the people around us will approve or disapprove of our choices. And without realizing it, we end up living a life that isn't ours, but a version adapted to what we imagine others expect of us. But here's the big question. Only you feel the weight of your dreams. No one else can feel the frustration of not living what you desire. No one else can carry the burden of a life that doesn't align with your true desires and aspirations. The only person who lives your reality fully is you. So why let others' judgments determine your choices? It's natural to want acceptance, but the problem arises when you let that need for approval dominate your decisions. When you do that, you move further and further away from your true essence, from the things that truly make you happy. And you know what's worse? Even if you mold yourself to please others, criticism will come anyway. No matter what you do, there will always be someone with a contrary opinion, someone who will judge you. So why not do what you really want? Life is too short to live in the shadow of fear of what others will think. The truth is, most of the time, people aren't really paying as much attention to you as you imagine. We're all so immersed in our own lives, with our own fears and insecurities, that the reality is that external judgments have much less impact than we think. And even when someone judges you, it says far more about them than about you. Now, here's a fundamental question. Are you living according to what you want, or are you trying to meet others' expectations? Are you making decisions that resonate with your dreams and passions, or are you acting to avoid criticism? The fear of judgment can stop you from living fully, but it only has the power you decide to give it. And it's not about completely ignoring others' opinions. Of course, constructive feedback can be valuable, but you need to learn how to filter it. What truly matters is your opinion of yourself. If you're following your own path, living according to your values, and pursuing what truly makes you happy, that's what counts. The rest? It's just noise. Remember, the people you admire, those who did something great, who stood out, didn't get there by trying to please everyone. They followed their own instincts even when they were judged. They had the courage to be who they truly were, without fear of criticism, and that's why they're remembered, because they had the authenticity and strength to follow their own path. So the next time the fear of judgment shows up, ask yourself this question: am I living for me or for others? The life you want is waiting for you, but only you can decide to follow it. Others' judgments don't pay your bills, don't make your dreams come true, and don't feel your frustrations. You feel all that, and that's why only you should be in control. It's time to stop seeking external approval and start seeking your own. Because at the end of the day, the only approval that truly matters is yours. So, what will you choose? Will you keep living in fear of judgment, or will you finally free yourself and follow your own path with authenticity and courage? The choice is yours, and so is your future. Now that you know the fear of others' judgment can't control your choices, let's talk about something fundamental to turning your ideas into reality. Many people wait to have all the answers before taking action, thinking clarity comes before movement. But here's the big truth. Clarity is not the starting point. It comes with movement, with action, and it's that action that generates the progress you seek. How many times have you caught yourself saying, "When I know enough, I'll start," or "As soon as everything is clear in my mind, I'll act"? If you've ever felt this way, you're not alone. But here's the mistake many people make: thinking that clarity comes before action. The truth is that waiting for this clarity can be the perfect recipe for stagnation. The reality is that clarity doesn't appear when you're planning, thinking, and analyzing. It shows up along the way. It's movement that begins to draw what once seemed blurry. Only when you start taking action do the pieces begin to fall into place. It's like walking down a road at night with a flashlight. You can only see a few feet ahead, but as you take steps, the path reveals itself. And why does this happen? Because it's during the process that you learn. When you move, test your ideas, experiment, fail, and adjust, you start to understand what works and what needs to change. Action generates experience, and experience brings clarity. That's why standing still, waiting for all the answers before starting, doesn't work. You can plan everything down to the smallest details, but only in practice will you discover what truly makes sense. Think about it. You could spend months or even years planning a project, a new business, or any other big step in your life, but nothing you plan will be as valuable as the learning that comes from simply starting. You can have the most perfect plan in the world, but without action, it's just an idea. And here's the secret many don't realize: the plan will change. As you move forward, new challenges and new opportunities arise, and with that you'll learn to adjust. And you know what's even more interesting? Many times, what seemed like a clear path at the beginning completely transforms as you move forward. When you start acting, new possibilities you hadn't even imagined begin to appear. You meet people who can help you, find resources that weren't available before, or discover skills you didn't know you had. Action opens doors that planning could never predict. That's why stopping to wait for clarity is freeing. It takes away the pressure of having to know everything up front and gives you the freedom to experiment, to test, to fail, and to learn. The important thing is to take the first step, no matter how small, because the truth is, the more you move, the clearer the path becomes. It doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be all figured out. You just need to start. Moreover, action creates a positive cycle. The more you act, the more progress you make. And that progress fuels your motivation to keep moving forward. Every step you take, no matter how small, brings you closer to your goal. And the closer you get, the clearer everything becomes. It's not about having all the answers before starting. It's about trusting that the answers will come along the way. What many people don't realize is that the lack of clarity is actually a signal that you need to move. If everything is too uncertain, if you don't know where to start, that's your brain telling you it's time to act. Inertia only creates more doubt and more anxiety. Action, on the other hand, generates clarity, confidence, and most importantly, progress. Now think about the people you admire. They didn't get where they are because they knew exactly what to do from the start. They simply started, even without having all the answers. They learned along the way, adjusted their course, and most of all, allowed themselves to evolve with each new experience. And you can do the same. Stop waiting for clarity and start taking action, even if it feels small, even if the next step isn't entirely clear. Movement will take you forward, and as you move, the answers you're looking for will start to emerge. So, what are you going to do now? Are you going to keep waiting for clarity, or are you going to start creating clarity through action? Because in the end, what sets apart those who only dream from those who achieve is the willingness to act. Even without knowing everything, the first step is what makes all the difference. Action generates clarity. Clarity generates progress. What are you waiting for? Now that you understand that it's action that generates clarity and movement, let's move to the final piece that ties it all together: mindset. because success isn't just about taking action. It's about how you approach every challenge along the way. And here's the secret of people who achieve great things. They have a winning mindset. They see obstacles as opportunities for growth and criticism as noise from people who aren't moving forward. Let's explore how you can develop this mindset. What separates those who achieve from those who only dream isn't just talent, resources, or luck. The key factor is mindset. The way you view challenges, mistakes, and criticism defines how far you can go. A winning mindset isn't one that seeks to avoid problems or eliminate risk. On the contrary, it's one that sees every obstacle as a disguised opportunity. Think of any successful person you admire. What do they have in common? They didn't shy away from challenges. They didn't let themselves be beaten down by criticism or the possibility of failure. Instead, they chose to shape their minds to see every difficulty as a chance to become stronger, more prepared, and more resilient. And that's the essence of a winning mindset. Transforming what seems like a problem into a platform for growth. The big difference for people with this mindset is that while most shrink from difficulties, they see them as learning opportunities. If something goes wrong, they adjust course. If they receive criticism, they absorb what's useful and leave the rest behind. Because they know that the path to success is not linear, and what matters is not the number of times they stumble, but the ability to get back up stronger. Now, let's talk about criticism. It's inevitable. The more you stand out, the more you advance, the more criticism you'll receive. And here's the central point. Criticism and excuses usually come from those who feel threatened by your progress. When someone sees you evolving, breaking through barriers they haven't had the courage to face, the natural reaction is to try to pull you down. They criticize you not because there's something wrong with you, but because your growth exposes the limitations they've imposed on themselves. And that's exactly where a winning mindset makes a difference. People with this mindset aren't shaken by others' opinions. They know that in the end, what others think is just a projection of how they feel about themselves. If you let those criticisms control your actions, you're giving power to people who aren't even on your path, who don't know your struggles or your dreams. The secret is simple. Either you use criticism as fuel to improve, or you ignore it altogether. A winning mindset knows that external judgment doesn't determine your worth. What truly matters is your ability to keep moving forward, no matter what others say or think. Because in the end, you're not here to please everyone. You're here to fulfill your own dreams. And you know what else? Having this mindset doesn't mean you'll never doubt yourself. Doubt is part of the process. But what sets apart those with a resilient mindset is that, even with doubts, they keep going. They trust the process, even when the path is full of uncertainties. They understand that success is a marathon, not a sprint, and that every small progress, every small step toward their goals is a victory. This winning mindset is also about accepting that you can't control everything. There will always be unexpected challenges, situations beyond your control, criticism you can't avoid. But the question isn't what happens to you, it's how you respond. You can let it bring you down and quit, or you can use each of these moments as a test of your determination. Here's an important truth. Success isn't just about what you achieve, but about who you become in the process. A winning mindset isn't defined by victories alone. It's defined by the ability to persist, to stay focused, and to keep believing in yourself even when the world around you doubts. Because in the end, what truly matters is how you approach the journey, not just the final destination. So, how do you start developing this mindset? First, you need to recognize that challenges are inevitable, but that each one brings an opportunity. Instead of running away, face them head-on. Second, filter criticism. Listen only to what can help you grow and discard the rest. And lastly, keep moving. Progress doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be consistent. Success starts in your mind, and the good news is that you have the power to shape that mindset, to become the person who sees a challenge as a chance, not as a barrier. Now the question is, are you ready to adopt this winning mindset and turn challenges into opportunities? Because your progress starts with how you choose to see the path ahead. Now that you've understood the power of a winning mindset and how it can transform the way you face challenges, it's time to take the next step. This entire journey of growth and overcoming begins in the mind, but it doesn't stop there. There is much more you can do to develop and achieve the success you desire, and for that, knowledge is your greatest ally. If you've made it this far, it's because you're seeking to grow and develop. The next step is to dive deeper into knowledge about mindset, relationships, and communication, 3 essential pillars for success. Mindset shapes your actions and your approach to challenges. Positive relationships push you forward, and good communication allows you to share your ideas clearly and build powerful connections. This invitation is for you to continue your journey of development, to learn more, and to be part of a community committed to growth. Knowledge is the key to transforming your life and realizing your dreams. Shall we go together?